In remote parts of the state, electric co-ops are the only way residents can get power to their homes. They face a unique set of challenges that set them apart from larger investor-owned utilities such as Duke and AES. Clayton Baumgarth met with one customer without power for nearly a week after the derecho and spoke with the provider's CEO to learn more.
Tonia Schrier and her family live in the middle of the Owen Putnam State Forest in a modest 1,400 square foot home. They're surrounded by trees. Getting and maintaining power to their home is an expensive challenge.
$600.
A month?
At least, yeah.
You're kidding me.
It's high.
That's insane.
Yeah.
$600 a month?
It's in the wintertime, it's like $750, $800.
The Schriers belong to the South Central Indiana Rural Electric Membership Cooperative, or SCI-REMC utility provider. The utility covers 1,000 square miles and 7 counties. When the derecho hit the area a few weeks ago, the Schriers lost power almost immediately.
We load up the gas cans and head into town to get some gasoline for them. On the way in there, we took the chainsaw with us because we are experienced there, and we had to cut 5 trees out of the road just to get into town.
They went without power for nearly a full week. Luckily, they had generators to keep their kitchen fridge and some fans running, but it wasn't enough to power the whole house. Each generator would run for 7.5 hours and cost $60 a day in fuel. One thing the generators couldn't power was the meat freezers holding hundreds of pounds of deer and hog meat.
We bought a whole pig, so that was I know that was $700 right there. We do have some inside, but not much. We had 3 deer from last year in there, and we stock up, any kind of meat sales. We always stock. I'm going to say, if I had to guess, probably $4,000 in meat.
Electric co-ops such as SCI-REMC were created to provide power to hard-to-reach and low-population places like the Owen Putnam State Forest. James Tanneberger is the CEO of the utility. He says the storms took just over half of the co-op's meters offline.
After this derecho, we had approximately 18,500 members out. And so that was our worst outage ever. And our second worst outage was the one that happened at the end of March, where we had 14,500 members out.
In a typical outage, it would be a challenge to get a home like the Schriers back online due to the sheer amount of vegetation surrounding their power lines. But in an event such as the recent one, it was downright impossible to mobilize enough linemen to fix all of the outages quickly. One reason is that Indiana infrastructure is largely above ground, and another is that every other energy provider was going through the same issue concurrently, causing a shortage of linemen to go around.
Unfortunately, this time, AES and Duke and everyone was getting every contractor that they could. They were not only using their regular contractors, they were having to compete with us for the other contractors across the country.
65% of SCI's service territory is covered in forests, making it unique even among other co-ops in the state. So when it comes to putting lines underground to prevent falling limbs from causing damages like this, the cost to do so is prohibitively expensive.
We estimate that it would take about $400 million to put our existing overhead facilities underground. So with 3,700 miles of facilities, that is a daunting task whenever you're also trying to keep rates stable.
Tanneberger tells me that his utility is a top 2 spender for Indiana co-ops on vegetation management, and even with nearly $5 million a year going towards trimming trees, it often isn't enough.
We can't account for the perfectly healthy live trees that during a major wind event fall from outside our right-of-way onto our lines. Our easements are about 50 feet wide. We trim to the edge of our easement, and as you know, a 60, 70, 100-foot tall tree can easily reach our line.
So what can customers like the Schriers do? According to Kerwin Olson of the Citizens Action Coalition, engaging with electric co-ops is often a challenge for his group.
None of those entities are regulated by the state, so there's no single body, if you will, that you can go to participate in the processes.
In 2012, co-ops began pulling out of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, thanks to legislation allowing co-ops to set their own rates and to obtain financing. In other words, investor-owned utilities such as Duke and AES are subject to transparent documentation through the commission, while co-ops aren't, causing consumers trouble when there are complaints to be made.
When an REMC customer filed a complaint at the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General office referred them to the IURC. And then the IURC then says, well, we have no jurisdiction.
Tonia and her family were fortunate to have generators to keep portions of their home on during the outage. Other households weren't so lucky and have life-saving appliances like CPAP machines to worry about as well.
If something more serious happened, we'd be without for a long time, because not only is it SCI-REMC trying to get out here, but the roads sometimes are impassable. So we kind of got all kinds of strikes against us. I guess that's the perks of living in the country.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
Citizens Action Coalition and the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor have filed a petition to investigate AES Indiana's practices for restoring power after storm outages. They said that as energy companies continue to increase rates, it's important they reliably provide energy.